Hello, everyone in the webinar viewing audience. Good afternoon. This is Bob Wettermann talking to you from BEST Incorporated here in Chicago. Today's topic is on manual inspection of printed circuit board assemblies. And you're probably asking yourself, how can we talk about that for 90 minutes? Oh boy, we have a lot of material to present to you today. And so let's get started in terms of what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to get through some vocabulary via the introduction, some strategies, and you'll see that I'm pulling in information from different industries as well, because in general, we're talking about manual inspection. We'll also talk about what the attributes of a good inspector is or are, as you are probably trying to either hone the skills of yourself, others within your organization, or even hiring somebody who could be an inspector. What do those attributes look like, and how can we test for those? Then we're going to talk about lighting for inspection and the various types of lighting strategies associated with making sure that there's the proper lighting if we're going to make calls one way or the other about printed circuit board assemblies. And then we're going to go through some examples and talk those through. And like Ryan indicated, I always welcome questions, because the questions are probably something your neighbor has, in this case your electronic neighbor has, and they want to know about, but they maybe just didn't think to ask about it. So let's get started here by starting with a definition that comes to us from the FAA, the governmental body governing aeronautics. And so what we're talking about is the process of using an unaided eye, either with various aids or alone, as the sensing mechanism from which judgments are made so that a condition can be determined while we are inspecting it. So some type of call, and in the case of printed circuit board assemblies, we talk about process indicators, we talk about defects, we'll talk about all those things in this session. So we're covering things just so we get together in terms of a scope here. We are talking about a non-destructive means to inspect a printed circuit board. We're not talking about other mechanisms like X-ray or AOI, or even destructive means in order to test a printed circuit board, just our eyeballs, whether they're aided or unaided. So if we go back to the FAA, which obviously has a very high vested interest in making sure that everything in the food chain of aeronautics is there in terms of safety, actually defines 4 different levels. And for illustration purposes, again, it comes from a different industry, but I think it's useful. They talk about, they being the FAA, they talk about 4 different levels of inspection. The first is level 1, and that's what they determine to be kind of a walk around or a general check or condition. So that's the highest level. So when I think of that, I think of renting a car. Those of you who have traveled and you rent cars, usually there's some kind of walk around, either with the associate taking you around the car to see if there's any damage, or during the time where you get to that little gate and the person at the gate is asking you whether or not your rental agreement is at hand and your license is at hand. So that's level 1. Level 2 is a general inspection, and the general inspection refers to a larger area where we're going to look for potential damage, failures, or irregularities.